you are an expert here about education, three of you. Tell me something. It's education has to change in these days, has to evolve. How does it have to happen?
Well, I think the challenge, at least in the U.S., is that education was actually determined by an essay in 1912, funded by John D. Rockefeller, to produce individuals for the Industrial Revolution. And so it was all based on memorization. There wasn't a lot of value in creativity. They didn't want creativity on the assembly line. They wanted people who would do things in, quote, a perfect way. That's still in place in a lot of schools, not just in the U.S., but around the world. What Apple has been attempting to do is first and foremost recognize that every student is uniquely gifted. There's a little bit of genius in every student. And the role of the teacher really should be to help the students find that genius, find their passion, be motivated to learn. And technology is a tool, is an environment better for engagement. And so the classroom needs to go from one where the teacher contains all the knowledge of the content to one where she shares in the learning episode. So it should be relevant to the students. It should be creative. So instead of just being content consumers, they should be creating. It's based on Bloom's taxonomy. It should be collaborative. We learn from each other. Our research shows that Vygotsky's work. When I went to school, collaboration was called cheating. Every project was a single project. And finally, it needs to be challenging. Kids like to be challenged. That's why games are so popular, because they keep raising the level of the game that challenges the kids. So, in a sense, our classrooms need to change. And probably the most important thing is we need to get to personalized learning, where the teacher knows what each student needs at any given time and can deliver those learning activities. And that's going to take technology. So I think we're just now, sort of approaching that, but that's where I believe technology is going to go. It's going to empower the teacher to help her meet the needs of 20 or 30 students in a class.
But technology has also been something that made a change in the classroom, because now the kids know more than a teacher. In our times, when we were in a class and the teacher said, "The sky is blue," we said, "The sky is blue." Or the capital of I don't know where it's this. Now the kids say, no, that's not correct.
Hey, Siri.
They use their Apple, their computer, or their phone and say, no, that's not correct. I know that it's that. Yeah. It's like you said, it's more challenging. How is this to control it in a?
Well, the challenge is that, unfortunately, a lot of schools bring technology in, but only use the technology as a substitution for what they already could do. I think the kids are a little bit farther ahead, because Alan Kane once said technology is only technology to those born before the technology.
Yes.
So we tend to look at technology as a tool. They look at it as an environment. And they in fact have more functionality in their social environments to be able to create content and share that content, publish that content.
Many parents or people said that technology has made people separate. Instead of being together, in sometime when we were kids, in the break of classes, you went out to play soccer. Now many kids, instead of getting out, they stay with their computer, or they go to a very nice room that they made in the school, where they can do whatever they want with computers, with their phone. They are interacting different. It's technology making people more along, the kids, how to show the kids that not everything is technology.
Yeah, I mean, what parents complained about when I was a kid is we would go outside and play cops and robbers, or play army, and they were complaining because we were going to be, we were going to end up in jail because we were always playing with guns and stuff. Okay, so I think there's a balance, and I think parents, good parents, put a balance in place. If the technology is being used to learn, to grow, then I think it's fine. But if it's not, if it's locked into something that's not wholesome, I think it's really up to the parents to put a stop to that.
I'd actually like to ask Martha to speak to this around what we're planning and what we're doing around our makerspace, and also around what we're doing during our recreational activities, and how we've kind of changed how we manage recreational, recess at the school to respond to these needs.
Yes, we certainly use that technology in the way he is telling us. We are in that direction, but also we know that the kids need to continue writing and using their skills in art and taking all kind of gadgets, not just in the technology way, because they have so many talents that we have to look at them. And then when their talent is in technology, we will guide them in a certain way so they can reach a good level in that area. But we have to give all different kind of
creative activities
to the kids.
For example,
Yes.
when we do the makerspace, we want we've been starting building it and buying the products for it and so on. They should be working with Tinker Toys and Legos and working with their hands, with clay, making and creating, and connecting physically to the environment, which can get lost. And that's what you said about good parenting. The way we see it in the education world is we have to balance both the technology and the educational. And so during the recesses, we have different centers now around in recess where students can maybe be beading or doing some artwork, or if they want to play soccer, but also do it and manage it in such a way.
Do they play now soccer in the phone?
No, they are kids. Wait, excuse me, do you know how well we did on our Maccabea games? Our kids play soccer, and they love soccer. And we're even working that out too, of how do we make sure that we're including all the students and doing different sports, not just soccer. We're really we have to look much more intentionally at how we help the children mediate their relationships than we used to have to before. Because it is true. We have to acknowledge that it's true that children are spending an awful lot of time on the screens, and they don't necessarily have the social skills that children who spent hours outside playing did years ago. So it's very important as the educational professionals to be looking at, okay, how do we help them mediate it? And there are even amazing programs around the world that we're looking at, like Kiva from Finland, just considering it, we don't know yet, but different kinds of programs that you can use, let's say, how do you mitigate bullying, and there are programs you can use for social emotional learning, even with the technology. So it's a matter of balancing.
And that really gets into the pedagogy of challenge-based learning.
Right.
Challenge-based learning, the students come up with a challenge, something that's relevant to them. Is my water safe to drink? One of my favorite examples was occurred in an 11th grade anatomy class in Texas, where the teacher was looking for a learning activity, and the students said, well, why don't we build it for you? And in the process, they decided that they would like to write an anatomy book and curriculum for anatomy for younger kids. And it's a collaborative effort, and the young girl who did the illustrations was not considered to be one of the better students, but today she's a medical illustrator because it was in that project that she learned where her expertise was. I saw a TED Talk by Caleb, who I've met at the MIT lab, and it's fascinating because we was talking about farming. Nobody wants to be a farmer anymore because it's hard work. But what they've been able to do in the lab is fundamentally democratize the growing of vegetables so that it can be grown anywhere in the world, independent of climate. And basically they monitor the growth of the vegetables, and the data comes back. It's like the vegetables talking to you and saying, I need water. Well, basically technology is going to change the way we farm, and the fact that we're going to be able to grow vegetables in the Saudi Arabian desert.
I was going to say, I need to introduce you to my cousin in Israel who's in the avocado industry.
I think the challenge is that you have to think of technology should empower us to do something in the classroom that we couldn't do before. When you use technology simply as access to content, and that's all you're doing, playing a game, you're not transforming, you're not using technology the way it's supposed to be used. And I think that's what the Apple Distinguished Schools, we recognize that. that people are using technology, not as a substitution, but in a transformative way.
We will talk about that. Just tell me something. When you speak about education, we speak about schools, but you're rewiring education, and it depends also of parents, of the family. What do you recommend for the parents to kids not to be all the day on the screen, to do other things, to be educated different? Because the education in house, it has been also modified, and it's always the kids know more than the parents. It's impossible to tell them not to use the cell phone. It's very hard, and they don't read anymore. Many of them, they don't take a book. All right, many they don't take a book, or they would look to read it in an Apple device, or it's changing that way that we used to do it in our ways. It's bad, it's good. What do parents have to do?
Well, it's going to sound, self-promoting, but that's why I wrote the book. This is for parents. This is for parents to better understand, one, the academic research that's behind learning, two, the potential of technology, if used appropriately, to really not only empower the teacher, but change the student's life as they recognize their unique gifts. We already met one young man here who's coding and he's integrating the mechanics. Well, he's the one thing that coding does. See, people, I think, what coding does, it's not about the coding per se, but it's about the learning process that coding introduces. It's the same learning process as solving a problem, and it's the same learning process as starting your own company. So it's the process that's important. Whether you're coding in Java or Swift or a myriad number of different languages, the value really is in the learning process.
Thank you.